place. Space is very important to us. In fact, we often think about imagining America as a catalyst to create the kinds of spaces that engage us in fresh and different ways.
An academic, sort of centered organization, but very interested and having a penchant for connecting meaningfully with community-based spaces. And so to meet the needs of the constituents that are drawn to our conferences who want both of those sorts of experiences, the talking head panels and the really engaged, sorts of activities that demonstrate, the richness of community engagement is tricky. So we think that the feedback from our conferences tends to balance it out, in terms of celebration and both critique on both ends. But, in general, we think it's exciting. I'm a student of higher education and continue to marvel at the idea that our consortium even lives. And I know it's because our signature, the arts, humanities, design, really speaks to people in ways that other conferences do not. And so we're in a constant effort to try to balance the needs to address the constituencies that come to the meetings.
Yeah, I think that last year the conference was in New York City, and while it was hosted by NYU and the New School in Columbia, much of the conference happenings, as Tim mentioned, were out in the community. And because Imagine America is focused on the arts and humanities and design fields, there's a liveliness to the events of the conference. There were a couple of evening performances, actually a performance that came out of the work of our associate director, Kevin Bott, was one of them. And it's incredibly well attended, very powerfully presented, and really well received. The year before, the conference was in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and again, while it was hosted by Macalester College and the University of Minnesota, some of our other partners, much of it was out in the community with a really rich array of cultural arts organizations that are in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. So we're piecing together things in our work and through our conferences that oftentimes don't come together. And we really do get a good, strong, positive response from people when they see that and have a chance to participate in it.
I would only add that Scott has mentioned some of the performances that took place at the New York conference, and here we are with the backdrop of the Dream Freedom Revival of Syracuse. And you'll learn more about that when you come to our events, but we're under the leadership of our Associate Director, Kevin Bott, trying to push the envelope on how arts and humanities translates into community activity and civic engagement, and we think we're doing it in some creative ways.
What does it say about a city like Syracuse that's quite a bit smaller than New York City or Minneapolis that they can hold this conference?
Well, I think the conference, the fact that Imagine America is in Syracuse says a lot about the commitment of Syracuse University, the scholarship in action theme that Chancellor Cantor has helped to shape, and so many people across the country look at Syracuse as a national leader for how a university can reconnect in positive ways to its surrounding community. So I think the fact that the conference has come here to Syracuse just represents the positive contributions that the university under the Chancellor's leadership have made. But it also represents the fact that as the Chancellor prepares to step down at the end of next academic year, that we wanted to have this back here as a chance to kind of revisit and learn what's happened in her tenure since she's been here. The conference was here 5 years ago.
Yes.
So it's coming back after that amount of time. Not only because Nancy, this will be the Chancellor's last year, but we felt that had a certain poetic justice to it.
It's really, really powerful. I would only add that we think it is significant that Syracuse is a harbinger for bold efforts of transformation. I mean, I love to hear the primary character in Dream Freedom Revival, Dr. Ebenezer Abernathy, talk about how Syracuse had led in the suffrage movement with the Native American contributions to democracy and the Underground Railroad efforts for freedom. And we think that this effort to bolster higher education toward a civic mindedness, an understanding that the continuum of knowledge is broad, and that we can enter it as scholars of backgrounds of arts, of humanities, or any of the core disciplines. Can there's space in that continuum for that work? So we're excited about that.
Just one more thing I'd like to say is that while what I said a minute ago about the conference being here and the chancellor last year, the work that's been happening here in the city of Syracuse, the work that Syracuse University has been part of, is really only just beginning. So the theme of scholarship and action has maybe had a first chapter, but we're looking forward to many further chapters. And this is the case around the country as higher education, institutions in higher education begin to recommit themselves to their communities and to the public, that we're just opening the door to decades of work that Imagining America will be very instrumentally involved in helping to support.
Can you discuss any specific current issues in the Syracuse community that the conference hopes to address?
Certainly, I think that the wonderful opportunity to connect with the 400th anniversary of the Two-Row Wampum Treaty, the first known treaty between Haudenosaunee natives and Native Americans and the European explorers is powerful. I mean, when I began, I'm new to understanding the dimensions of that work, but when I found about the details of that terribly important marker and the opportunity we would have to connect, to think together, to use that as a metaphor of sort of at least two different peoples going down the river of life in harmony and trying to understand what it means to look back and see how it has not worked and what we can do towards amelioration. I think it's one very powerful theme. There are others.
We'll have a number of, as we begin our conference planning, there'll be a team working on a number of different site visits and events out in the community. So themes, local themes will be very present that will emerge out of that planning process.
With an estimated 400 people coming into town for the conference, we talk about the economic impact it'll have in Syracuse, restaurants, hotels, things of that nature.
Sure, it's a great example of interweaving the civic engine and the economic engine at a conference like this. So we certainly hope will help contribute to that.
Yeah, these are the kind of folks who will come to town and find a zip car and take it from the Waverly lot and drive on down to the Jefferson, Clinton, and park over there. We're excited about the kind of people that attend our events, and we think that they will come and be meaningful contributors, not only with respect to material issues, but broadening our thinking about the variety of themes and issues that are before us. I would be remiss not to mention the importance of urban inclusive education and the Say Yes to Education effort. We know that these themes will register as well here. Both Scott and I are faculty members. At least one of our appointments is in school education. But there are a variety of themes, just to your earlier point, that we're going to be addressing.
Are there any specific ways you hope to build on or improve from past annual conferences with this one that you can list?
Sure. Excuse me. Well, the theme last year was the campus and community as equitable partners, and the conference theme actually included a question mark after that, because we're not just being satisfied with what we've done so far. We're recognizing that the aspiration of being an equitable partner is difficult to achieve, and so we're going to be picking that theme back up again. It actually fits very well with the Two-Row Wampum Treaty 400th anniversary theme, because that's in a similar sort of way the notion of being equitable partners is raised there. So there definitely is a continuation of a theme that have been picked up there and in previous conferences.
It's a very astute question, and maybe reflecting a little bit back to earlier comment that I made. We really try to get a different type of presentation that happens at the conference, and so we're emphasizing a smaller number of symposium panels. and a greater number of participants who are presenting their work in a dynamic, interactive way will get feedback. And hard as we try to do that, it's just difficult to manifest. And so we'll be doing some orienting of presenters in a different way in hopes that we can instill some of that ethos in a greater way. But we keep pushing to see.